I'm eating the food of the future. Beep, boop.
3D printed food and vegan dairy products are just a couple of the 10 foods that prove the future's already here.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Fake meat.
Wait, it's fake.
Meat has traditionally been considered one of the foundations of a complete diet because it's a great source of complete proteins. A hallmark of a society becoming more advanced and more wealthy is the availability of meat to the average person. So-called veggie patties have been around for decades and are made with a wide range of ingredients, including beans, rice, mushrooms, and quinoa. The more recent fake meat movement is a different thing altogether because the makers are explicitly trying to make products that can fool you into thinking you're eating actual meat.
Fooled ya!
Beyond Meat is one of the companies making fake meat. Its burgers are made with ingredients like pea protein, canola oil, cocoa butter, potato starch, and beet juice to try to mimic the reddish color of beef. Try as they might, this list of ingredients probably isn't going to fool most beef lovers into thinking they're eating a real burger. So if Beyond Meat isn't futuristic enough, there's a company called Memphis Meat that is working on the molecular level to create cells that will result in a meat-like substance. Consumers might hesitate to eat lab-grown meat unless it passes the taste test, but this is the meat of the future. Bug hunt.
Bug? Had a bug on me.
Most of us have heard survival stories where people were lost in the wilderness and had to eat various kinds of insects to survive. Had to and survive are both key here because most people in their right mind wouldn't choose to eat cockroaches and beetles unless they were in a survival situation. Futuristic Marines in the 1986 sci-fi movie Aliens complain about being sent on another bug hunt. But at least they weren't expected to eat what they found. Insects make up a huge percentage of the planet's life forms, and it's often hard to avoid flies and ants and assorted creepy crawlies. So it's not like you'd have much trouble finding bugs to eat.
It's actually very easy.
Some companies have been thinking about how to market bugs to make them seem less disgusting and more appealing. Some food experts believe bugs are the next big food innovation, with choices like crickets and grasshoppers being prominent additions to your menu. There are already a handful of products that include bugs in the list of ingredients. Pastas and energy bars with cricket flour give these foods a higher protein content. School children in the Netherlands are being fed mealworms instead of meatballs in an effort to cut down on beef consumption, and this trend could be coming to a cafeteria near you. License to print food.
Do you even have a license?
People say it would be great to have an idea or a business that amounts to giving them a license to print money. 3D printing, also called additive manufacturing, is fairly new technology that allows you to create three-dimensional objects from digital files. Using it to make food is one of many interesting applications. Some of the most common printed foods are candies and chocolates, but the possibilities are quickly growing. Redefine Meat and Nova Meat are two companies using 3D printing technology to make plant-based foods that are meant to look and taste like meat. Nova Meat is a Spanish company that has been working hard to create 3D printed plant-based steak that can replace the real thing.
I highly doubt that.
The company boasts that it has developed a technique to create a fibrous texture of meat that is usually lacking in meat substitutes. Flavor, aroma, texture, and overall appearance are all factors in the appeal of meat. It remains to be seen if technologies like 3D printing can convince meat lovers to make a switch. Pizza lovers, on the other hand, probably won't need much convincing to try a 3D printed pepperoni with extra cheese. There are still a few kinks to work out before there's a 3D printing pizza shop near you. But get ready, because it's coming soon. Coffee gummies.
Made of gummies? Why?
That hot cup of morning coffee is an important ritual for many people, but this might be about to change because coffee gummies are one of the foods that prove the future's already here. Coffee in the form of gummies is certainly not a convenient way to get your caffeine fix, but will people want to trade the hot liquid with cream and sugar or their straight-up cup of black coffee for a handful of gumdrops? For many coffee drinkers, those first few sips of the hot beverage are a welcome part of the day they look forward to. It doesn't seem like a brown cube, even if it tastes good, is a realistic replacement for an actual cup of Morning Joe.
So you think you can just replace me?
Go Cubes are a brand of chewable coffee gummies that provide 50 mg of caffeine. 2 of these cubes will give you the boost you get from 1 cup of coffee. These cubes sound like they would be very convenient if you're on the go and need a caffeine boost. And there's no Starbucks or Dunkin' to be found. Science fiction stories commonly depict people in the future eating food concentrates in the form of pills and tablets that have replaced real food. This might look good in the movies, but it will be hard for chewables and pills to replace real burritos, burgers, and yes, a nice cup of coffee. Edibles.
They're edibles. You just eat them.
Legal substance-infused brownies and gummy bears are not the only edibles on the market these days. Get ready to use edible packaging as part of the drive for eco-friendly solutions and specifically toward biodegradable packaging. Instead of continuing to fill landfills with plastic, cardboard, and paper, you can have a quick snack and then eat the packaging. People will point out that everyone who has eaten an ice cream cone has tasted edible packaging, but a cone doesn't seem like the same thing as what's on the horizon.
This is entirely different.
There are a number of foods being used to develop edible packaging, including seaweed and a milk protein called casein. Another idea that actually sounds pretty good is the effort to make a coffee cup out of hard cookies and chocolate. This could usher in a new era of a coffee and cookies combo if they can make it work. Sooner rather than later, you could be eating candy bars with wrappers made from things like potato fibers and rice paper. These edible wrappers make sense from a conversation standpoint, but they are also an opportunity to market these products as improvements over traditional products. Better food through chemistry.
Better food, better view, better TV.
Molecular gastronomy investigates the changes food undergoes through cooking. This is a recent discipline created in 1988 by a chemist and a physicist. Scientific principles are used to manipulate food in new ways. Instead of merely cooking an egg in a pan, this approach notes that alcohol has certain effects on an egg and explores them. For example, an egg is soaked in alcohol for a period of time to see if the chemical changes the egg undergoes essentially cooks the egg without ever putting it in a pan. By the early 21st century, this discipline, sometimes also known as modernist cuisine, started bearing fruit in the form of creations like deep-fried mayonnaise and noodles made from shrimp instead of flour.
Sounds expensive.
Another thing that has been explored is using CO2 gas to transform pureed foods into foams. These tweaks might seem like small potatoes compared to what is happening in the field of genetically modified organisms, but these are the results of sophisticated ingredients and techniques. Hydrocolloids are complex substances used as thickening agents in foods like candy and some frozen foods like ice cream. Spherification is a process that combines substances, such as some kinds of algae, with other ingredients to form little spheres of food. Molecular gastronomy is the proof the future of food is already here. Tuning forks.
Just sounded like what it is, a tuning fork.
Sonic is a well-known fast food chain known for its car-side service and colorful drinks. But this is about using the principles of sound to enhance food. Sonically infused food might sound like a clever marketing ploy, but it actually describes an innovative way of processing and potentially improving certain foods. A study at the University of Oxford found that different tones could affect the taste of foods. Some tones could make the food's flavor more bitter, and another tone could make it sweeter. It has to be pointed out that the tones did not actually change the flavor of the foods, but changed the way people's brains experience the foods. So this is really a matter of brain manipulation, not a new way of preparing foods in your kitchen.
It's time for some mind games.
The Oxford study found that low bass sounds made food taste more bitter, and high-pitched sounds make foods taste more sweet. A distillery in Jacksonville, Florida, is using sonic technology to age its whiskey. Oak chips are added to a batch of whiskey, then a low-frequency sound is directed at the whiskey. The bombardment of these sound waves causes the wood chips to vibrate. The agitation of the chips and whiskey ages the alcohol much faster than the traditional method, waiting for the process to take its course over several years. According to the distilleries using the process, 1 year of sonic aging is roughly equivalent to 5 to 7 years of traditional aging. Sonic enhanced whiskey? If that's not the future, then what is? Non-dairy dairy.
Do you have any non-dairy creamer?
The typical non-dairy creamers that come in the form of liquids or powders draw attention to themselves by using non in the name, because they're telling you what they aren't instead of what they are. What they aren't is actual dairy, just like an emerging group of vegan dairy products that try to mimic the taste and texture of dairy products like cheese, but are entirely plant-based. Vegan cheese is made using alternatives like soya and almond milk. A bacterial culture is added just like when making real cheese that separates the proteins in the milk. Thickeners such as tapioca and arrowroot are added to the vegan milk to help achieve a texture that is similar to cheese.
Made with 12% real cheese.
Vegan cheese is aged to improve flavor and texture just like cheddar and all your other cheesy favorites. You can get more than vegan cheeses because companies are offering plant-based butters and cream. Vegan dairies often use cashews to make these products, but some are starting to use ingredients like hemp instead of nuts. It remains to be seen what percentage of dairy lovers will be willing to switch from regular cheeses and butter to foods made from hemp. But it's one of the foods that prove the future is already here. Does macaroni and hemp cheese sound good to you? You'll probably have an opportunity to find out sooner than you think. Frankenfood. It's alive! Modified foods that are referred to as a genetically modified organism have sometimes been derided as Frankenfood. By trying to make this connection with the infamous mad scientist and his tragic creation, some people have tried to gin up fear of the technology behind GMOs. Some people want you to believe scary foods are being cooked up in dark laboratories for nefarious purposes. Some critics of this technology treat GMOs as a threat to both the consumer's health and also a threat to nature itself. The truth is much less a monster movie, and much more a matter of basic scientific research in pursuit of better products. Genetic modification of plants is a common practice, and much of the produce you buy at the supermarkets is the result of modifications.
Genetic modification is a real thing.
Soya beans, corn, and potatoes are just a few examples of the produce that have been improved using the technology, and the list is quickly getting longer. CRISPR-Cas9 is a form of gene editing technology used extensively today. All kinds of improvements are possible, such as extending the shelf life of fruits like bananas and tomatoes. Given all the recent issues with the supply chain over the last couple of years, it certainly makes sense to try to create foods that last longer before they spoil. The point is, GMOs are not Frankenfoods that should be shunned, but are simply products that reflect some of the latest advancements in agriculture. Plant food.
Plant-based, oh my god.
Algae is a fairly broad category of tiny organisms that can convert light energy into chemical energy, but otherwise is a pretty mundane form of life. While mundane is a pretty good descriptor, appetizing isn't a word that is usually associated with algae. However, there are plenty of people that are working hard to change how you feel about algae. It turns out, algae can be a lot more nutritious than you might have guessed, with protein, carbohydrates, and healthy omega-3 fatty acids.
Are you getting enough fatty acids in your diet?
Hopefully, we're a long way from the excesses of Charlton Heston's 1973 movie Soylent Green, but a company called Soylent Nutrition Inc. is pushing ahead with using things like algae flour. This unconventional food is being used to increase the nutritional value of certain foods, such as energy bars. They're working hard to make algae a significant part of your diet. Different kinds of algae is being added to a variety of meat products, including steaks, hot dogs, and sausages. Fermented dairy products such as cheese, yogurt, and cottage cheese are also the recipients of these nutritional organisms. There are many uses for algae, so expect to see it more and more in a wide range of foods. Pick out another great video, then hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell.